Okay, to start our formatting number one, me part two, we're going to first open up Microsoft Word and open up our me assignment from yesterday. Now, if you're lucky, that will show up right here underneath your recent documents. But if it's not showing up here because you're on a different computer or whatever reason, you may need to click on the open icon over here on the left side. And if you double click on that, you'll be able to go to your This PC and then kind of figure out where it is you saved it. More than likely, you saved it underneath either your documents, which will be right here, or possibly under downloads. And if you look in there, that's where you'll find your document from yesterday. Mine is right here, so I'm just going to pop it open. And if I'm following the directions on the worksheet, the worksheet looks like this, and it's going to have you first go ahead and save this as a second copy, and you're going to name it with your last name, and you're going to call it Me Part 2. That's what it's talking about here in step 2. And then you're going to go through and you're going to highlight each section of your completed document, which should have all 3 paragraphs at this point, and you're going to apply a different setting within your formatting, and these are called the formatting 5. It has the font, the size, the style, the alignment, and the spacing. Now there's a few of these down here towards the bottom where there's some special notes, and I'll show you how to do these things, but they are sort of hidden a little bit deeper within the menu, so that is something that you may have to watch this video to be able to figure out how do you get a hold of those things. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move this worksheet out of the way and get back to my document. All right, so first thing I want you to do is go ahead and highlight your heading, and the easiest way to do that is to click and drag. Once you change your font to one called Chiller. Now you'll notice when I highlight this, it has this little pop-up menu that sometimes will give you shortcuts to some of the most common settings that you want to do, but for this particular activity, it's going to be easier to go up here to the top. First setting is called Chiller. And now you could scroll through this, they're alphabetical, or the easier way is to start typing in the word, and you'll see it jumps down and it will allow you to choose Chiller for this. Also wants you to change the font size to size 14. It wants you to change the style, which generally your styles are right here, to italic. It wants you to change your alignment to right, and right here are my 4 different types of alignment. I've got left, center, right, and then full justified. So I'm going to change this one to the right. And then it wants you to change your line spacing. Now your line spacing may be in different spots depending on what your menu looks like. Mine happens to be right here, and it's this icon that looks like a bunch of lines with an up and down arrow, and it wants it to be 1.5. Now, that's what I've done for my first thing. It then wants you to go through and highlight your title. A nice little tip here is if you triple click 1, 2, 3, it will highlight an entire line or an entire paragraph. And you can do that down here for paragraph 1, 2, and 3 as you go through and change those settings as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and pause this and change my title, my paragraph 1, to the settings that it says on the worksheet, which is curls and 18, bold, center, and single, which you'll be able to read those on the worksheet. And then we'll come back in a second so that you can see some of the more advanced ones on paragraph 2 and 3. Okay, you can see here I just finished up paragraph 1, applying the different settings that it says on the worksheet. The last one was to change it to double spacing. Now I'm ready to start on paragraph 2. It goes in, I'm going to triple click so it highlights the whole paragraph. I'm going to change it to my font, which is Broadway. I start typing that. It wants me to change the size to 9. Then it wants me to use something called small caps. Now I don't see that anywhere. And in the notes, it says to use something called a Dialog Box Launcher. And that is this button right here. If I pop that out, it actually gives me more options. Right over here is one called small caps. And what it does is it sort of capitalizes everything, but things that should be capitalized, they're larger capitalizations. So it's kind of a cool effect sort of similar to like a poster. I'm going to make sure that's left, and my line spacing is single according to the worksheet. Same thing here for my third paragraph. I'm going to change it to the font that it designates, which is Callisto. And I'm going to change the font size to 13. Now here's a little trick. Notice it jumps from 12 to 14. You can actually type in any number you want here. And as soon as you press enter, it'll choose that. So 13 is the one I want. And then I want you to choose a text effect. And that's this cool little option here. It's up to you what effect you want to choose. I'm going to do a kind of a shadowed one here. And I can even apply additional reflection or glow effects. So just kind of play around with that and see what those look like. Sometimes you apply so many, it makes it almost impossible to read. But that's just sort of a cool extra thing there. Put it on the right side, and I'm going to make it 1.5. Now that I've got all of my formatting, I'm going to go ahead and go down to where it asks me to insert some graphics. And you're going to do that through the insert menu. Now you may have already inserted a few graphics, so you may need to modify these to fit with the directions. But I'm going to go online and choose a graphic. Now they break them into categories, but it's pulling these from Bing Photos. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a hockey picture because that's what my second paragraph talks about here. So I'm going to throw in a hockey image. Just going to use this simple one here. Then it wants you to resize it to about 1 inch. You just kind of have to estimate it here. And then I'm going to change the text wrapping, and that's this menu right up here underneath Picture Format, Text Wrap. Wants this one to be tight. Put that right in the middle of your words so I can tell it's text wrapped. Then it wants you to go ahead and put in a second graphic. Again, I'm going to choose hockey. And this one, it wants you to put behind the text. And I'm going to actually leave this one fairly large. And I'm going to change my text wrapping to behind text. And then I'm going to go over here to transparency and adjust the transparency level so that I can easily read the text that's on top of it. If it's too dark, I can't read those words. All right, and then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a third graphic. And for this one, why don't I go ahead and put a, let's choose a car of some sort. And it wants you to, once this goes in, we're going to put this up here on the right side. And you can choose what kind of text wrapping you want. I'm going to go ahead and do a square for this. You know what I'm going to do behind. And I'm going to make it, give it a different effect. Now here's a little trick here. This is behind my text. I can't actually get a hold of this. So a trick to that is using this menu right here called the Select menu. And it allows me to specifically select objects, and then I can get a hold of this graphic. It's just sometimes they disappear behind text. I'm going to go up to my picture formatting, and I'm going to add a cool artistic effect. Maybe this one I'm going to use a kind of a light screen effect. All right. Once you have this set up, you can go ahead and save this again. You're going to go to File, Save As. And again, I'm going to change this inside my, or save this inside my PC up to my documents. And I'm going to call this Me Part 2. And go ahead and add your name to it at the beginning. Save this, and then we will turn this in tomorrow.